Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to first take us back to August. In Rayne, Louisiana, when at 5 o'clock in the morning, a young woman named Jaden Voigtland was awoken by her siblings. Orange sewage water and flood water was flowing through her home like a river. It destroyed their floors, their walls, their possessions, and their family's life, really, as they knew it. As Jaden says, she stepped out of bed right into the middle of climate change. Now, Jaden's story exemplifies why we need to urgently address climate change. It is essential, really, truly essential, that we recognize that the degradation of our air, our water, and our atmosphere exacerbates and actually prevents solutions to all the other world's major crises. It prevents solutions to war, to poverty, to disease, and to migration. So if we do not fix the climate, we are going to fail to fix the fundamental rights that every single one of us in this room seeks to protect. Now, unfortunately, in the United States, my country, we just received a devastating blow with the election of Donald Trump. Come January 20th, Congress, the cabinets, and the federal agencies are going to be led by people who think climate change is a hoax, and people with strong ties to the fossil fuel industry. And further, the United States, my country, who has contributed 25% of the historic emissions to the atmosphere, is the one country that may pull out of Paris, turning our backs on the international community and our young people, and really our future. But thanks to young people like Jaden and hundreds of youth plaintiffs all around the world, there is hope. These young kids are suing our leaders for our leaders' collective failure to protect the atmosphere in trust for their future. And they are creating a path so that we can potentially protect our invaluable climate system. So here's the backstory. On August 8, 2015, young plaintiffs brought legal action against President Obama and key federal agencies. The youth brought this court case because they strongly believe that their rights to life, liberty, and property are being violated. They also strongly believe that they're being discriminated against because it's our young people that have the most to lose as climate change worsens, but they are the ones that have little to no voice in our political process. As Scott pointed out, the U.S. government has known since at least the 1940s that the burning of fossil fuels threatens humanity. The U.S. government in court, under oath in this case, admitted, and I quote, "Climate change poses a monumental threat to Americans' health and welfare." Now, what America knows, but we're not quite saying out loud yet, is that climate change poses a monumental threat to the health and welfare of everyone, everywhere. Yet despite these consequences, when you walk into the court, you see these little kids. Their suits are a little too big. They're wearing these little heels. They're all dressed up. And some of their heads are so young that their heads barely peek above the courtroom's wooden benches. On the other side of the courtroom sits President Obama's attorney. Side by side, shoulder to shoulder, physically, with the co-defendants, the fossil fuel industry. And when Scott and I say the fossil fuel industry, we literally mean almost the entire fossil fuel industry. The three major lobby groups who have chosen to volunteer themselves to be co-defendants in this case represent literally thousands of members of the coal, oil, gas, and manufacturing sectors. They volunteered to be defendants, emphasizing that if these kids win this lawsuit, the entire energy economy is going to be realigned, affecting their bottom line. So now the scoreboard flashes Obama plus dirty fuel versus the future. And soon that's going to change to Trump. Now, this symbolism is not lost on this kid. After one of these hearings, 10-year-old Avery McRae, right in the middle up there, she stood up at a press conference and she was talking to a CNN reporter named John Sutter, and she acknowledged that some of these legal arguments in this court were hard to follow and there were a lot of big words being used, but one thing was not lost on this 10-year-old. She concluded that the fossil fuel industries and her leaders care more about business as usual and their profits than they care about having a livable future for young people, for having clean air and clean water. And young people all over the world recognize this too, so people all over the world are taking their cases to court. Many young kids and nationalities everywhere recognize that it's the government that is responsible primarily for this climate emergency that we have created, and that it's up to governments to be able to fix it. Really, in short, our kids, our young kids, recognize that systemic problems need systemic solutions implemented by the systems level players. So they're going to court, and guess what? These kids are winning. The first landmark case was actually won right here in the Netherlands, a country that completely understands climate change because we're very vulnerable here to climate-induced sea level rise. But they're also winning in the United States. Just a week ago yesterday, federal court judge Ann Aiken wrote an opinion initially finding that a stable climate is a fundamental constitutional right. In this groundbreaking decision, the judge has opened up an avenue, a path, so that we can eventually have court-mandated emissions reductions that are in line with carbon science instead of carbon politics. Okay. This case, Juliana versus the United States, is expected to go to court in early 2017 and is expected to be a constitutional turning point, not only for the United States, but when the kids win in the United States, just as they win in the Netherlands, it's going to be win for all of them in every single country. And I have to say that pro bono attorneys, law students, and NGOs have been invaluable in this effort. With all of you out there, these wins would have been literally impossible. There's a mid-sized firm in San Francisco, Cachette, Petrie, and McCarthy, that have provided extensive support to these young people. And the gentleman at the bottom, Phil Gregory, he's a senior partner with this law firm. He is serving as co-counsel representing these young people in federal court. So, in light of the recent events, this pro bono support that all of you can provide is going to become more and more valuable. The kids have a 5-point plan that they're asking all of us in this room to help them implement. I'm going to go through the first 3 bullet points, but I'm going to be here all day, so if you want to have questions about what else that they want, I'm happy to tell you their other ideas on how to help save the atmosphere. So first, anyone, anywhere can submit an amicus brief on behalf of these youth, whether it's the case in Pakistan, whether it's the case in Norway, whether it's the case in Belgium, whether it's the case in the United States. And in the US, because we just recently voted in a climate denier who doesn't care about the rest of the world, and he's going to be in the White House, this is all the more important. As I talked about earlier, climate change affects absolutely everyone. His decisions are going to affect everyone. So the world's voice needs to be heard on the US stage. And the opinion that just came out last week, the judge actually cited every single amicus in her decision finding for these young people. So if you're a lawyer or you're a law student and can help draft one of these amicus briefs, let us know. We would love to work with you. If you're an NGO if you're an elected official, if you're a climate scientist, if you're an expert in the military, if you're a community leader, if you're a faith-based leader, if you are a parent, consider adding your name to one of these amicus briefs and asking others if they might do the same. Second, there are young people from all over the world, from Canada, France, the UK, Brazil, Mexico, India, that are writing to Our Children's Trust, and they are asking, hey, do you know lawyers in my country that could represent me in front of my national courts? Now, without exception, in every single one of our countries, there is a duty of care to protect life, liberty, and the crucial natural resources we all share and depend upon for our very survival, our air and our water. So the kids are asking, please help us find where this duty of care exists in these laws. They're asking us to represent them in court. They're asking us to elevate their voices. They're asking us to teach them how justice should work. And so I'm asking you to all join in and help build young leaders like Shute Scott and Victoria. And if you need help, Our Children's Trust has experience and contacts with some of the best climate scientists, so give us a call and we will help you build rock-solid legal cases that come up with systemic remedies to this climate crisis. And third, and this is the most complicated and the most technical, is that the young people are asking all of us to support the immediate enactment of science into law. And what do I mean by that? The world's top climate scientists know what we must do to have a healthy atmosphere again. We must decrease atmospheric CO2 down to 350 parts per million. We must do this so that we stabilize the long-term average global temperature increase to only 1 degree Celsius. If we do this, the scientists tell us that we will avoid most of the climate calamity. So in any cases that you're bringing related to climate, to energy, to human rights, ask the court, weave in a remedy that allows the court to embed this scientific standard into law. Okay. So I acknowledge that some of these asks, some people might think are tough. That maybe you think it's politically infeasible. Maybe you think your firm has too many conflicts, so you can't help these young people. Maybe you're asking yourself, why do we need to hit 1 degree Celsius? Why do we need to commit to that when the Paris agreements aim for 1.5 degrees Celsius? But we are literally in a global race against time. The scientists are telling us the window is closing. So we must think about what is bigger than what's politically feasible. We must overcome perceived conflicts, and we must actually commit to what the science says. I want to conclude with my profound thanks to each and every one of you for your help at this very important time in human history. And as you contemplate your individual role in contributing to making our world stay beautiful, I want us to imagine. I want us to imagine sitting down with a child that you love and saying to this child, sweetheart, I'm sorry. I know the scientists are telling us that there's scientific certainty that we are going to have climate chaos, but we're too beholden to the fossil fuel industry, so it's just politically infeasible to do something about this. And then instead, I want you to imagine sitting down with that same child and saying, sweetheart, there's still hope. I have some ideas on what we can do. Here's what I'm thinking. Don't give up. What I want us to do is I look forward to having conversations with you, and ideally conversations with each other today and in the days to come, where I know what we all say after, here's what we can do. That's the question I'll leave you with. Because for these young people, it's going to take everyone to change everything. So thank you, and if you can help these young kids, find us.